Okay, hey everybody, this is Brad here with Brofessional Development, and today we're going to have a little bit different style of a podcast. We are going to let Connor Beaton from ManTalks give us a little bit of insight on how he has built a community around men and masculinity.
Yeah, so this is a great question in many ways, and I'm just going to talk about how to build community in general because there's a few key components that I think are important. The first one is to know what your community actually wants from you. So what problem are you trying to solve for them? It's a really important piece to just begin with as you're flushing out or trying to identify the type of community that you want to build, whether it's a community around a podcast or around personal development, professional development. It's a community around health and fitness. You want to be able to identify what problem are you actually solving for those people, whether it's weight loss or you're overcoming their loneliness or whatever that might be. Because there are a few different kinds of communities that you can then build from that problem. So based on the problem, you can then build either an education-based community, you can build a training-based community, or a discussion-based community. And those three different forms of community will help to just arrange the way that you interact, the way that you write your sales copy, the way that you write your emails, the way that you actually build your community. Each of those communities, education, training, and discussion-based communities, are all going to serve different purposes. Now, if you're building a business, you might actually have, let's say, a discussion-based community that's free on Facebook or a different platform, and then a membership-based platform that is education-based or training-based higher up on your value ladder. But that's where you want to start. What problem are you solving? What is your community needing from you? And then are you designing an education-based, training-based, or discussion-based community? The next thing is realizing that consistency and value, consistency plus value, equals brand loyalty. So when you marry those two things together, it is incredibly important. What a lot of people fail at when they're building community is maintaining engagement. And so when you're developing a community, probably the most important part is that you need to be consistently offering value. Because if you're posting once a week, once a month, it's very hard for people to understand who you are, what you're talking about. So the reality is that when you're building community, you need consistency, and you need that consistency to tie into the problem that you're solving for those people. And you're going to want to also elicit what those people are wanting to talk about, what they're wanting to learn, what they're wanting to be trained on within that community. So finding a time to post regularly, finding a time to engage with your community regularly, finding a time to have regular events. Like, for example, when I started my company, we had our events on Mondays. We called it ManTalks Mondays. I like alliterations mostly because when people, there's so much information, there's so many communities out there, and alliterations, ManTalks Mondays, are very easy ways for people to remember them and have it sort of sit in their brains. So find consistency in your posting, in your content, in your conversations, in your events, in the way that you engage your community, and that will keep them coming back. The next thing is to make sure that you have an ethos or a code. And we need these things in general because that ethos or that code is going to be the thing that helps the men or the women in your community bond, because they bond over shared virtues and values. That's what actually brings people together from a psychodynamic perspective, is that when we agree on things, when we have shared goals or shared aims or shared outcomes, or if we were trying to solve a shared problem, then that will bring us closer together with those other people. So have your shared ethos and code embedded not only onto your website, or make it clear wherever people are engaging with you, but use that ethos and that code to engage with your community, to build your content, and to spark the conversations. So for example, within the ManTalks Alliance, it's a group that I run. We have an ethos that says our mission is to define what it means to be a self-aware, high-performing, and self-led man in the world, the kind of man who leads himself with respect, compassion, and resiliency. And so right there, it gives them a sense of what they can expect. Next, it says the purpose is to connect with other high-performing men like yourself, share your challenges and triumphs in an open environment, and get the support you need to thrive while getting clear on exactly what you want in your life and how to achieve it. So there's the ethos for one of my communities. And in that ethos, it gives a man an understanding of what our virtues and values are, what they can expect, what's expected of them. So this is the next piece that's very important. Make it clear of how your community members can engage in the community. What's expected of them? Men especially want to be able to contribute, and women want to be able to connect. And so you have to make it very clear to them how they can engage, how they can contribute, how they can connect with the other people in the community. And whether you do that through the ethos, which you ideally should, also through guidelines of how it is expected of them to connect. So maybe you make a rule that people have to post once a week, or you make a rule that people have to engage a certain way with other people around discourse or discussion. So make it clear how people can connect and contribute. The next piece is know what you're teaching, aka know what your curriculum is. So if you are in the discussion-based, education-based, or training-based space, you need to know what it is that you're actually teaching people, what you're actually educating them on. So have a basic understanding of your curriculum. What are some of the components, the pillars of what you're actually teaching people? And finally, elicit feedback. So every once in a while, your community should be questioned as to how that community can be improved. So what do they see as being missing within the community? What could make it better? And the beautiful thing is that those people will tell you how, if they are invested in the community, which, by this point, you've probably got some investment from them. But if they're invested in the community, they will tell you exactly what they think you should do to improve the quality and the value and the consistency of that community. And then finally, the bonus point, don't be afraid to ask the people in your community to tell other people about the community. The people in that space are going to be your fans. They're going to be your promoters. And one of the things that people often don't do, what they forget to do because they're afraid to offend somebody or they don't want to ask them for it, is to ask the people in the community to actually bring that knowledge out. So we have something called Man It Forward in our space. So within the Alliance, I'll usually say, once a month, hey, Man It Forward, tell a guy about this group. Or on my podcast, I'll say Man It Forward and share this episode with somebody. And that's a call to action where people that are engaged, that are promoters of your brand, that are promoters of your community, are incentivized to actually share what they are engaging with. Because again, we want to be able to contribute, we want to be able to connect. And so you need to give them the means and the permission and the call to action to do so. So those are the main pillars that I've found to work really well in terms of building a community. And I hope that you enjoy them.